Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Step Up to the Mic. This is the place for aspiring and established speakers to take the stage, deliver their talks, and bring them directly to you. Folks, today's featured speaker is an absolute dynamo. You're going to love this one. This lady is the founder and president of the not-for-profit Malta Conferences Foundation. She is a scientist, a human rights and peace advocate, and a humanitarian. She's also the author of her book, Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Zafra Lerman.
Thank you very much, Roy. And I will start my talk by telling you something about me. In case you don't detect, I was not born in the US. I came to the US after I had my doctorate degree, PhD in chemistry. And I came for a postdoctoral fellow at Cornell University as a single mom with a young child. I didn't have any family, any source of money, any source of help, only the stipend I got. And I made it. So I will share with you how my life was developed from that. I was a research scientist. My research was on isotope effects, what I'm not going to explain. And after many years doing research at Cornell University, Northwestern University, and the Swiss Polytechnicum in Switzerland, I decided to go into education. I got very involved in issues of human rights. And I believe strongly that science education for all is a human rights. Because if we will not give science education to all, we'll form two-class society, not divided by royalty, but divided by knowledge of science and technology. We cannot leave behind such a big population. I developed a way to teach science through art, music, dance, drama, rap, animation, anything you want. And it became extremely successful. I had a National Science Foundation grant together with Princeton University to develop the same class with these methods in both institutions. I taught at Columbia College Chicago. That was an art and communication school, high minority students. And to prove that my students can be second to none, they flew every year to Princeton for a joint uh, symposium. The media called it the meeting of two cultures. The program was adapted with a lot of universities and colleges around the world and was proven very successful with underprivileged students. In addition, I worked on human rights. I was very bothered by the fact that people that did nothing wrong are being arrested, being thrown to jail or to hard labor, especially in the Soviet Union in the 80s. And I felt that I have to come to their help. I am a member of the American Chemical Society, the largest, most influential one subject scientific society in the world. And I chaired for 26 years the Committee on Scientific Freedom and Human Rights. Under this committee, I used to join groups of chemists that went into the Soviet Union, became a scientist. We were guests of universities. We delivered lecture. And before I went, I took a crash course in Russian because I met Andrei Sakharov. I don't know how many still remembers. He was the most famous dissident in the Soviet Union. He did not speak Russian. We had an English translator that he knew very well, but he told me that if I will just ask for a translator, the chances are that it will be a KGB agent. Therefore, I have to study Russian. I took a crash course in Russian. And after the formal scientific activities, I would identify at dinner time one person from the group that looks to me reliable and not frightened. And I said, don't ask me questions, but if I'm not here tomorrow morning for breakfast, just call the American embassy. And I would go after midnight in dark alleys, meet with dissidents, and they were all scientists. There were people that were called refuseniks because they wanted to emigrate from the Soviet Union, and because of that, they were fired from their jobs. Were not allowed to be exposed to scientific material or anything. Many were sent to hard labor in Siberia, many to prison, and I would bring scientific material with me, and I would meet dissidents in dark alleys, and they would take me to an apartment where in a dark attic there by 2 o'clock in the morning, we would have like 50 dissidents. I would distribute scientific material, illegal in the Soviet Union. I would give a seminar, was illegal in the Soviet Union. I would take their CVs and resumes back to work on their behalf. And then I would bring all that back to the US and started working with my committee to get first the ones from prison or hard labor out and the rest of them. And the biggest pleasure was when every time somebody was released because of my effort. And one of these scientists nominated me to receive the Andrei Sakharov Prize for Human Rights. And he wrote in his letter, he was released and came to Chicago. He gave his first lecture to the American Chemical Society, and we became very close friends. And in his letter, he said, I always wondered why a person living in peace and freedom risked their life for somebody that they had never met and is languishing on the other side of the globe. And he said, I realized that these two people have the same values and they stand for their values. And they did for science a very messy job that you will not find on the pages of scientific journals. They made science both humane and human. And it was always, I received this prize, and it was always a pleasure to go somewhere and see my dissidents dressed in suits and being already active scientists in the US. And after September 11, I came to my committee and I said, we have to concentrate on the Middle East. And I brought my idea to the International Activities Committee, of which we were part. And there was silence in the room. You could have felt every breath there because it was the midst of the Intifada in the Middle East, the uprising. Suicide bombing was in every corner. People were killed in cafes and buses. Situation was very bad. And my idea was to organize a conference that will bring together under one roof scientists from all the countries of the Middle East, including Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, the West Bank, Gaza, Israel, Jordan, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, all the countries in the Middle East, bring them together to a neutral place for 5 days with several Nobel laureates and give them a platform to see what unites them rather than what separates them. To give them a platform where they can stop demonizing the unknown other and give them a platform where they can develop cooperation and collaborations on scientific issues that affect the Middle East and the world, and one country cannot solve it alone, like issues of water, energy, food security, science and technology education at all level, medicinal, chemistry, entrepreneurship and innovation, and dealing with the issue of nuclear, chemical, and biological welfare, and how to make sure that we control all that. There are few rules in the Malta Conference, and one of them is a rule that really the Americans were very unhappy about, and the rule is no accompanying members, in order not to dilute the interaction between the participants. Chemists know that if they dilute a solution, the reaction is much slower. The same is with interaction between people. When you dilute it, the interaction is much slower. So no accompanying members were allowed. In the Middle East, in order to be successful, it's extremely important to keep equality. There are no rich and poor, great scientists and poor scientists. Everybody is equal. I learned it when I was involved in a project with the Albert Einstein Peace Prize Foundation in '82, where Israel and Egypt signed a peace agreement, but it was more a no-war agreement, not a peace agreement. And then we decided that we will organize a conference where we will bring Egyptian and Israeli agronomists to work together to build an agricultural community similar to a moshav in Israel. In Israel, there are two agricultural communities. One is called kibbutz, where everything is shared, and one is called moshav, where only the produce is shared. Everybody brings the produce, the milk, everything, the eggs, to one central place, and they sell it together and share the profit. And the importance of a project like that in Egypt was that the Russian built the Aswan Dam, and after they built the Aswan Dam, the Nile stopped flooding. Before that, the Nile was flooding, and it had a lot of nutrient, and it was flooding for miles. So the agriculture in these miles was very good. But when the Nile stopped flooding because of the Aswan Dam, everything became arid land. And they had to find another way to produce what they lost. And this project was taken over by USAID and exists till today. But the Egyptian taught me one lesson, that everybody has to be equal. And they said to me, Americans have the tendency to come like 800-pound gorilla and tell everybody, look what we can teach you. Look what we can do for you. If this will happen, it will not be successful. If the language is, let's see what we can learn from each other, then we'll be successful. And the Malta conferences are based on this principle of equality. Everybody from graduate student to Nobel laureates, president of universities, science ministers. Everybody stays in the same hotel. Everybody eats the meals together and can sit next to each other. Everybody goes to social events together, and the social events in this conference are as important as the scientific events, because this is where friendships that can overcome the chasms of distrust and intolerance can be formed. During the scientific session, we have plenary lectures. And again, in order to keep equality and not have one country having scientists on a caliber that they can give plenary lecture, and another country doesn't have, plenary lectures are only given by Nobel laureates. This is why we have several Nobel laureates with us. But the other people present the results in a guided poster session and in interactive workshops. And this is where they form the collaboration. I'll give you just an example. If you look at the Middle East as the astronauts see it, you will not see the line on the map that the British put there arbitrarily and divided it to different countries. The aqueducts that for the water are underground, they don't know where these lines are. So they go through several countries. In order to solve the problem of water in the Middle East, the countries must work together. In order to solve air pollution, countries must solve together. The countries are very close to each other. If one country will take care of their pollution and the other country will not, one wind on the other direction will bring the whole pollution to the country that is having regulation. Therefore, these things must be solved together. Now, the Malta Conferences are the only platform in the world that succeeded in bringing under the same roof the scientists from all the countries in the Middle East. There are people that brought together the Palestinian, Israeli, and Jordanian. Few even managed to add Egyptian, but to have all the countries, this is the only platform in the world. Now, it's not easy to bring a group like that. First, there is no country in the world that wants to give a visa to all these people. And this is a big, big problem. It takes a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of work to be able to bring the people to the same country. Let's take the US, for example. At least 8 of my countries would not be able to enter the US because there is a ban. The European don't want these countries either. So to find a country is a very big task and takes a long time. And even if in the beginning they promised to give a visa, during the conference takes place every 2 years. During the 2 years, things happen in the Middle East and then things change. So this is a huge problem. I'll just give you an example. And we'll talk to you now before the war in Gaza, with Gaza, what it was to bring the people, the scientists from Gaza to a conference. Gaza has two borders, one with Egypt, closed all the time, one with Israel, all the time rockets are flying before the war, tense, very hard. So how do we take them to the conference, and I'll tell you in a minute where the conferences were held. First, I had to work with the Foreign Ministry of Israel for a few months to allow me to bring them through Israel. And sometimes it was during wars between Israel and Gaza. So they checked very carefully who are the people, security checks, and then I would get a message, tell your people that on that and that day, in this window between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning, there will be a car waiting for them in the Erez crossing, and they should be there. Then the car will take them across the country. Erez crossing is in the south. They have to go now to the north, to the Allenby crossing, in order to cross to Jordan to be able to fly from Jordan. So first comes the Israelis that have to give a permission. Second comes the Jordanian that have to give a visa so they can come there and fly from there. Third, the country we are going to has to give a visa. So it can happen that the country that the conference is gave me the visa, the Israelis gave me the permission, but the Jordanians said no. And this is where good connections are always helpful. I have a good connection with His Royal Highness Prince Hassan bin Talal that participated in several of the Malta conferences. He is King Hussein's brother. And he is always very helpful to me. So with all this tension, in the last minute, I have to go and use this connection so they could fly from Jordan. As the war started and it became very bad, we managed to get. Egypt did not want to accept anybody from Gaza that doesn't have dual citizenship because they wanted Egypt to be a transient country, come and go. So if you have dual citizenship, you can go to the other country. But my scientists did not have dual citizenship. So with money and everything, we managed to bring them to Gaza, and they are now in Gaza. The problem is that one family is young and they have young children, but the children cannot go to school because they are officially illegal in Egypt and the kids cannot go to school. I cannot tell you how much time using all my contacts in different countries, and I have a lot, trying to find a country just for this one family to come to move so their children can go to school. And every time it almost happened, in the last minute, it did not happen. So I'm still looking for a country for this family to be able to move out of Egypt. During the period of the war, we could not hold in person the conference because there were no flights coming from a lot of these countries. So we were having it virtually, and I was worried that the people will not come on the even on the Zoom because their countries are fighting with each other. Iran was involved, Iraq was involved, Syria was involved, Jordan, Lebanon was involved, Gaza is involved, the West Bank, Israel is involved. But all the people showed up on a virtual meeting and were very happy to be able to see each other, even only on the Zoom. We have now 800 scientists from the Middle East in the network and 18 Nobel laureates that are part of the network. Many of them participated in many conferences. So first challenge is the challenge of the visa. Second challenge, in order for everybody to be equal, we have to pay for all the participants. And this is another tough task. We are all volunteers. We don't have any paid employee. All the way around, we donate our money. We work on the conference. I work 20 hours a day, raising money, inviting participants, inviting Nobel laureates, and we must raise the money for each conference. It's a vicious circle. Maybe if we would have money to hire a full-time employee, this employee could have done a good job in raising the money. From where is the money coming? We got money from the National Science Foundation, but now their funding was cut. USAID was practically demolished. So we have to find other sources to ask for money. The American Chemical Society supports us, and we ask individuals and letters because we must raise all the money for bringing all the participants. For a wealthy person, it's $400,000 we need every 2 years. Doesn't sound a lot, but there are billions of dollars available to build weapon of mass destruction. Such a small fraction could lead to peace. But this small fraction is not available. So we have to find any way to raise this money. Now, the first two conferences were held on the island of Malta. Why? Because Malta is an island, and I felt that an island is safer than a mainland. And it was very complicated to get to Malta because when we started, there were only flights to Malta from Rome, London, and Frankfurt. So it took everybody really a whole day to get to Malta. So I decided that it will not be was for any terrorists to spend so much time to come and kill a lot of Muslims and few Jews. So therefore, Malta was selected, and this is why the name is the Malta Conferences. But Malta was not part of the EU when we started. So everybody got the visa stamped with the passport stamped with the visa upon landing. But after the two conferences, Malta became part of the EU. And then it needed what is called a Schengen visa. This has started being very complicated because a lot of the countries, Malta is very small, 450,000 people. They cannot afford having an embassy in every country because they would not have people left in their own country if they all will be in embassies. So they have different embassies representing them. So in Iran, it was the Austrians. In Iraq, it was the Italian. And we had hell to be able to bring these people to Malta. So then we moved with Malta 3 to Istanbul. That by that stage, it was 2007, gave a visa to everybody at the airport, and we did not have a problem. Malta 4 was in Amman, Jordan, and the Jordanian, I had contact with the royal family, so we did not have problem. And then in 2011, UNESCO and the UN declared the year as the International Year of Chemistry. And UNESCO asked us to have the last event for the International Year of Chemistry at their headquarters, the Malta Conferences. UNESCO was a partner from the inception of the Malta Conferences. So UNESCO is in France, and they said they will get a visa for everybody. But sadly, in the last minute, they could not get a visa for the Iranian. So we went from Malta 6 back to Malta, but by that stage, I have contact with the foreign minister, the president. So the countries that could not get a Schengen visa got a visa upon landing in Malta, a visa that just was for Malta. And we managed to bring everybody to Malta. I will not continue with every Malta conference. Everything is described in detail in my book. We went to Morocco for Malta 7, and the visa there is a story like a James Bond by itself. And the title of the chapter that describes it is From Mission Impossible to Mission Possible. So Malta 7 was in Morocco. Then we went back for Malta 8, 9, and 10 to Malta. Now we are in Malta 11, that is going to be in Baku, Azerbaijan, because they promised electronically a visa for everybody. Let's hope that when we arrive to the conference, we will get the visa to go there. The point is, if anybody would attend a conference like that, at the end of the conference, you will have a feeling like you attended a family reunion and not a meeting from countries that are at war with each other. What that says is that people really want to live in peace with each other. And what I used to tell my students, every class, I used to say, every day before you go to sleep, think what you did good for somebody else or for a good cause. If you did something good, then you had a good day. And my message is that everybody can participate in something to make our planet a better place for humankind. Thank you very much.
Dr. Zafra Lerman, everybody. That was absolutely amazing. I'm writing questions as fast as you're talking because I can't believe you put this whole thing together like this. The idea of bringing all of these scientists together from all of these different countries, just that all by itself seems revolutionary in so many ways. I have to ask, what was I understand that by the end of the time together, the morale was like a family, like you said. But when they first came together at the beginning of the conference, is there any nationalism, animosity, that sort of thing going on?
It's an excellent question. The first Malta conference, when we went, the conference starts usually with a reception and a dinner.
Uh,
At the dinner, every country was sitting at a separate table. And I walked around and tried to move them, and I said, we pay for you, but we don't pay for you to meet the person that you can meet without we paying. We pay for you to meet these people. So I would try to mix them. What the lesson from that was, because at the end, you could not say who is from what country. It's like one family hugging and kissing. In Malta 10, I thought I'll get COVID. I said, oh my God, so many people are hugging me and kissing me. What will I get as a result? But the way it works now, that always 50% are people that already participated and 50% are new. So the new one fall immediately, they follow the other people, so it's not a problem at all anymore. Sure, everybody that comes from a country, even in the US, you will see the Russian accumulate together, the Polish come to Chicago, You have Polish town, Greek town, Korean town, Chinatown, everything town, Ukraine town in Chicago. People like to be together, but in the Malta conference, they have the curiosity to meet the others. And it's very interesting to see these dynamics. But the first one was very tough to break that. You're very right.
I can only imagine.
My line was, I did not, I did not pay for you so much money to come and talk to the person that you can stay at home. This was my line.
I love that. I really do, and it's a fantastic story. It's a great cause that you're trying to do. The I want to talk about your book for just a minute too, because I want to make sure that we get
Yes,
the
can
word
I
out.
show it?
Absolutely, please do. There it
There it
is,
is.
and it's Human Rights and Peace: A Personal Odyssey. There it
It's
is
now on Amazon, Barnes and Noble in paperback
in
for a
paperback.
normal price, not
All
like that.
right,
Okay.
excellent. So the book itself, is this your story of you, or is it more the story of the project that you've been working on?
It's a very good question. I started it to write a book. I was under pressure to write a book for education, and this can be a huge book, and but never found the time. And then when so many dissidents got the freedom, and I got a lot of awards for that, write a book I got for education too. I have more than 40 something international awards. So I, I was under pressure, write a book on human rights, no time. And then people said, look, Malta is so unusual. There is no other experiment like that. You must write. So by that stage, I wrote as one of the editors told me, you wrote 3 books in one book that you put in 200 pages. And it's correct. But I started writing Malta, but then the editor said there should be something on yourself. So there was a chapter about me.
Hmm.
And then few editors said, hey, you have to change it. It has to become really a memoir. You should write about Malta. The visa alone is a chapter, but it has to be because your life was so full with challenges and all that. It's very important to have it as a memoir where everything is part of your life. So this is how it's written. By the way, all the proceeds of the book, I don't take a penny. It's all goes to the Malta conferences. So I
Okay,
wrote it with fundraising in mind too. So therefore, there are a lot of book signing. I'm invited all over the country to people that organize a lecture and book signing. All the proceeds go for the Malta conferences.
excellent. Okay, the you did mention the fundraising a couple of times. This is something that you end up having to do year round. Then it sounds like, in order to be able to put this entire thing together.
Correct. Not
Yeah,
easy. In the last 2 years, it got harder.
yeah, I would
Because
imagine.
institution, a government institution that used to support don't have the money to support, and you have to ask people. When it was in Istanbul, we always have a tour of the city we are in, so the people know where they are. And but we announce from the beginning, no individual touring, everybody together will
Hmm.
tour. Even the Nobel laureates, they are doing together with everybody else. And by the way, Nobel laureates take a lot of honorarium when they give a lecture in a conference. Not only that they don't take honorarium, few of them pay their own expenses. They believe in the cause.
Ah, okay.
So this is very nice, and I have to thank them in every minute for because they are very important for the conference to have them there. So the way that we organized. We see the city, but all together. There is a video that the American Chemical Society produced. It's on our YouTube. By the way, if anybody wants to read about Malta, there is a website that is Malta Conferences Foundation.org. Again, Malta Conferences Foundation.org. Don't forget the S after conference, because this is what the problem is that people told me it doesn't work. My own website, personal website, is zafralerman.com.
Gotcha. All
And
right.
if somebody wants to contact me by email and want to get involved to make the planet a better place, my email is Zafra, Zafra, you can see it on the screen probably, at zafralerman.com.
Gotcha. We'll make sure all of that contact information is in the show
First
notes.
name and then first and last together,
Hmm.
.com. This is
Gotcha.
when you have good students, so they arrange all that for you. So you can get in touch with me and I'll be more than happy to communicate. And if you want to read my book and then write 2 lines review on Amazon, it's again Human Rights and Peace, a Personal Odyssey. It really starts when I was a child, how by the age of 2, I already knew I will be a scientist. It's
Oh,
described the story how I sat for hours in front of the mirror because I had identical twins living next door. And I wanted my identical twin, and I thought that I see her in the mirror, but she doesn't want to be with me like the other two. And my parents tried to explain to me, it's not you don't have identical twin, it's you. I said, it's me, I'm here. How am I there? So this was by the age of 2. By the age of 3, we had some strange wooden box that was called the radio. I was born in Israel and I lived in Haifa. And my father turned it on and it said, "This is the voice of Jerusalem." I said to my father, "Jerusalem? I'm in Haifa. Jerusalem is far. How can I hear the voice of Jerusalem?" So this is how my scientific career started. So
yeah.
there was no doubt. I ended up being the only girl in my high school. So as a teenager, where every girl has their best girlfriend, my best girlfriends were boys. I did not have girls in my class.
You didn't have any choice. Exactly. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so you've been asking questions and just making yourself a pest since you were born, right? All
Very
right.
young, and always questions that really nobody could answer.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, it sounds like you're doing some amazing work. This humanitarian work that you're doing right now is incredible. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing all of this with everybody, telling folks about your book, and just doing such a wonderful presentation. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for being on our show today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Folks, this has been another spectacular episode of Step Up to the Mic. If you're an aspiring or current speaker and you want to bring your talk to the masses, message us today. Never stop talking and let us help you step up to the mic.